This question was sent in by Alejandro, who wondered, if every human being were to suddenly vanish from Earth, how long would it take before the very last artificial light went dark? To begin with the obvious answer, most lights would not last very long. Large-scale electrical grids would fail quickly. Even though power demand would drop without humans, appliances like refrigerators, air conditioners, and decorative devices would continue drawing electricity. Fossil fuel power plants, which currently generate most of the world's electricity, depend heavily on continuous fuel delivery, and those supply chains require human involvement. As coal and oil-fired plants shut down within the first few hours, other power sources would struggle to compensate. Even with human oversight, managing such a scenario would be extremely difficult. Without it, the system would likely experience a chain reaction of failures, ultimately causing a complete collapse of major power grids. Nuclear power plants, however, are a special case. They do not rely on constant fuel delivery. One reactor operator explained that if a reactor entered a low power state, it could theoretically operate for a very long time. Uranium is extraordinarily energy dense, a cube of it contains millions of times more energy than the same volume of coal. Still, despite having sufficient fuel, most nuclear reactors would not continue operating for long. At the first sign of malfunction, a reactor would automatically shut itself down. Reactor control systems are designed so that almost any failure leads to a rapid shutdown. This would happen quickly. Many events could trigger such a response, but the most likely would be the collapse of the electrical grid itself. That said, not all sources of light depend on major power networks. Consider some alternative sources and how long they might remain active. Remote settlements, such as isolated islands, often rely on diesel generators. These systems can operate until their fuel reserves are exhausted, which could range from a few days to several months. Facilities that generate power without requiring fuel supplied by humans would fare better. Geothermal power plants, for example, could function for a significant period without intervention. Maintenance records from Iceland's Svartsengi geothermal plant indicate that operators must replace gearbox oil and lubricate motors every 6 months. Without people to carry out this maintenance, some geothermal plants might continue running for several years, but eventually corrosion and mechanical wear would take their toll. Wind-powered systems could last even longer. Wind turbines are designed for minimal maintenance because of their sheer number and the difficulty of accessing them. The Gedser wind turbine in Denmark, installed in the late 1950s, famously operated for 11 years without maintenance. Modern turbines are generally rated for about 3 years of unattended operation, though some could plausibly last decades. At least one of them would likely still have a small indicator light glowing somewhere. Eventually, however, most turbines would fail for the same reason as geothermal plants: seized gearboxes. Hydroelectric generators would also keep producing electricity. According to one Hoover Dam operator, if everyone simply left, the dam could continue running automatically for several years. Without a functioning power grid, though, that electricity would have nowhere to go. Over time, clogged water intakes or mechanical failures would bring the system to a halt, similar to what would happen with wind and geothermal plants. Battery-powered lights would not last much longer either. Even unused batteries slowly lose charge over time. While some battery types retain power better than others, even long shelf-life batteries usually fail within a few decades. Solar energy offers perhaps the most durable solution. Across the globe, many off-grid installations such as weather stations, remote buildings, and emergency roadside call boxes are powered by solar panels. These call boxes often include lights that automatically turn on at night. Because they are difficult to maintain, they are designed with longevity in mind. Solar panels can continue functioning as long as their electronics remain intact and the panels are not buried under dust or debris. Although wiring and circuitry will eventually corrode, panels located in dry environments with robust components could realistically keep producing power for 100 years, especially if wind or rain periodically cleans their surfaces. Under a strict definition of artificial light, these solar-powered systems might be the last lights created by humans to remain visible. But there is another, far stranger possibility: nuclear waste. Despite popular belief, radiation itself is usually invisible, which is why radioactive areas require warning signs. While early watch dials used radium-based paint to glow in the dark, the light came from phosphorescent material reacting to radiation, not from the radiation itself. Once that phosphorescent layer degraded, the dials remained radioactive but no longer emitted light. However, radioactive materials can produce light in another way. When charged radioactive particles pass through substances like water or glass, they emit a faint glow known as Cherenkov radiation, often described as an optical equivalent of a sonic boom. This effect produces the characteristic blue glow seen in nuclear reactor pools. Some radioactive waste products, such as cesium-137, are fused into glass blocks for storage and shielding. In darkness, these glass blocks emit a soft blue light. Cesium-137 has a half-life of about 30 years, meaning that even after 2 centuries, the material would still retain roughly 1% of its original radioactivity. While the brightness would gradually diminish, the color of the light would remain unchanged, as it depends on particle energy rather than intensity. And so we reach our conclusion. Hundreds of years after humanity's disappearance, deep inside reinforced concrete vaults, the final human-made light would still glow, quietly emitted by the most dangerous waste we ever produced.